It amazes me how easy we are to, how easy we are to be tricked. And for the longest time, the church has been tricked. By their fruits they shall be known. I had a conversation with somebody who told me we need to protect Israel, the Jews. Now, knowing this guy for a bit, I know the story. I've heard it. It's called Zionists. And many people don't question anything. This is how you wonder how could Eve been so stupid enough to get to take that fruit? How easy it was for her. Why? I mean, wasn't that obvious? No. Oh, that same verbiage has tripped up a lot of Christians, a lot of followers. That same verbiage, that same gift of gab that the snake had, the lobbyist AIPAC has over our country. Because it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. And I you know what? I was like, dude, you got your Bible with you? No. Of course not. Nobody reads it anymore. I go, well, you have the Bible app? So he said no. So I got my Bible app out. Now, first of all, the obvious is look at all the deeds of Israel. They have killed women and children. Everywhere they go. God has tried many times. They don't even keep their covenants. They don't even keep their covenants. Their God. And mind you, the leaders are not religious. They're not. They're atheists. But they can still rule the country. The devil. When the devil was... The New Testament said, I can give you this. Look, I can give you this kingdom. Jesus, just bow to me. That was insulting to Jesus, wasn't it? Get behind me, Satan. Well, I was reading. I receive a sermon from a church in Yuma, or Winter Haven, Riverside Ministries. And then I also do a little side reading or listening to, I was really into Jacob Frank, reading about him. I won't go into that. Well, most of the pedophiles, they got the money, they can get away. They're allowed to go into Israel. If you're a pedophile, go to Israel. They won't, kick you out. They won't. And it's pathetic. If you're a criminal, you go to Israel. That's where Johnny Depp's ex went. When it was obvious that she shit on his bed, and Amber Heard, wicked. So, a lot of people who are criminals go to Israel. As a matter of fact, their leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's a criminal too. He's a war. He's wanted by his own people, by his own court. He's going to go to prison once he's going to prison. Their leader is as crooked as ours, apparently, as Biden was, and it looks like I don't know about Trump. I know he's a businessman, but what did Jesus do in the New Testament when he walks into the synagogue and saw these people, all these money changers? He overthrew that. He overthrew the tables. America was a synagogue. The founding fathers, I honestly think that This is part of God's plan. America was to be able to nurture the spirits of man. I mean, we have due process here. Then you don't have to be a U.S. citizen to have due process. You know, you're innocent until the government proves you guilty. The court's got to prove that you're guilty. Of course, you don't have due process with this administration, do you? They have, but then again, they're the big beautiful bill. I mean, there are provisions that they have in there for AI, artificial intelligence, which for 10 years, 10 years you can't say they could violate any local and state zoning. They could put an information center in your backyard. They could take your property away. You know, what's that domain, eminent domain? You can't say anything. They have free. And they've broken up families for the longest time. You know, our country has broken up families. It started with do you know anything about slavery? You probably don't know. But when the slaves were freed, they didn't know where to go. They didn't. They've been slaves. That's all they've known. It's like Israel. But they had a guide. Israel had a guide, Moses. But when the slaves were free, they didn't know where to go. That's all they knew. They weren't educated. They were so they're out there not knowing what freedom was, not understanding, I'm sure, the rights that they had. So you can imagine a whole workforce confused out there. So eventually, you're thinking back then as now where you could drive. You couldn't drive back then. The free slaves were up in the north, up there in Illinois and Indiana. You couldn't drive. And I'm sure they had to go through the Underground Railroad. I'm sure they weren't going over like obvious. They didn't trust the South. Now, eventually, I'm sure they got in, they got connected, and some of them left because they had to start anew. They, be educated, be a part of something. To further their families. But a majority of them probably still around. And so they, the first policing, the first police, they were the ones that would gather them up. Now the owners of the plantations, they ain't stupid. They go, wait, there's our workforce. We'll pay them something. Listen, you guys don't have no skills, but this. Come on over, we'll pay you. Human nature, though, they kept them, paid them very little. They didn't know any better. But little by little, they got to reading the Word, the Bible. See, the Spirit of God does not respect a man. Does not respect man's laws. And eventually, a lot of the slaves, they learned about Christ. They learned about the freedom. They learned probably the first book they read was the Bible. They learned about salvation. And through all the ugliness that our country has done, and it has done some ugly stuff, it's still the greatest country. We still have rights. Regardless what Trump's administration trying to take away our rights. God is still on the throne. Still a beautiful country. And we're unfortunately aligned with the king of the sinners, Netanyahu, and his politics.